passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
A swing and a drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jarid Watson, and this podcast is a part of Waiting for Next Year. Check them out, original Cleveland sports reporting at waitingfornextyear.com. Today's show is going to focus on the Indians as they're in New York at the moment, taking on the Yankees, and then they're going to have to play a series against the Mets, who are looking pretty tough right now. We're also going to look back at how the Tribe took 3 out of 4 in Minneapolis, including a drama-filled win on Sunday. Both Santana and J-Ram are on fire right now. The impact of Yasiel Puig has just been, much needed. And the latest with Kluber and Carrasco, we'll get to all of that coming up. And also, one more thing, should we be concerned about Brad Hand at this point?
Cleveland Indians.
Well, this is a good way to start off the podcast. We're doing it live during the Saturday game. It's 2-0 Indians right now, with J-Ram just popped out with a soft pop, but everything's looking good so far. The Indians, since the last time we spoke, I mentioned on the last Facebook posting we did, I was interested more in the Twins. So I kind of knew where the Indians were at, and they kind of proved my question. So I thought that was a tough series for the Twins. The Indians came in playing really well. They've been really metal tested, and they were ready to go in that series, and I think the Indians knew they needed to take 3 out of 4, and they did. They did a really nice job with it. The key to that whole series, though, Jarid, which I put into the rundown, which I'm going to actually jump ahead, Yasiel Puig settling that lineup and surrounding Santana, who's had a wonderful year, and really J-Ram now, who's looks like he's taken a breath at the plate and playing much better in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't think it's a coincidence that's when Puig came in the lineup, because as soon as Puig filled in the 4-hole, everything in that lineup again settled down. Earlier this year was the 2-hole. When Mercado got there, it settled the front half of the lineup. And now, with Puig in the 4-hole, Jarid, I've seen a big settling down. The game that everybody really raved about was Sunday, and there was really 2 plays, and we'll go through them quickly just to remind people. The play at the plate with Naquin to Lindor throwing a man out.
The relay. Isn't it amazing what happens when you hit the relay guy?
It is, and I'll
Weren't
say
we
this.
griping about that earlier in the season?
Yeah, well, a lot of the Indians were having a really hard time.
A lot of those guys who
doing
couldn't
that.
do it are out of the lineup now.
You're right, and I'll say this too. Naquin made a play there. Naquin's had a little bit of a rough time in the outfield at times. He took a weird route to the ball in the Red Sox series and didn't go so well. But Puig, he had the bat in that series. He was jogging around the bases, waving at the Twins fans. He really got into that series. In fact, I think you felt his impact even more the next series because he didn't play.
He's a goofy dude.
But I like it. It's
do
good
too.
goofy. He's Cleveland goofy.
Yeah. We're gonna have to talk to
There's
Mandy
different layers
about him in the dugout and in the clubhouse, which I
Yes.
think she did. She did mention some of that stuff. We didn't really get into it, but you could tell he adds a different vibe. He changes. He brings that liveliness back that I think we had been waiting on seeing, throughout earlier points in this season.
It makes everyone relax when you have a guy like Puig, because even Kipnis, dropping him to the 7th and 8th hole, you don't notice him as much, and that's
Right.
what you want. Kipnis is actually, when Kipnis had an unfair, and I love Kip. Kip just had an unfair thing this year. He was either batting 2nd or 4th, and with what's going on in his career right now, that's just not appropriate.
Yeah,
He's more of a 7, 8, or 9 hitter.
right.
And now that he's back in the lineup, he's more productive, and it just settled that
A
whole
lot
lineup
more
down.
productive, Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other big thing, too, which I put in the rundown and you alluded to off the top, the Carlos Santana train this year with his grand slam, obviously, on Sunday against the Twins, followed by the walk-off home run on Monday. Santana, and this is not coming from you or I, this is coming from other people who are outside the Indians fan base. He is being talked about as a low-running MVP candidate. That is how
It
well
makes
Carlos
sense.
Santana. It does. I think it makes a lot of sense. And for people who don't realize, and this is the stats that I was really doing some stat diving to try to find some things to compare about how important Santana's been, not just this year, but to the organization in the last 5 to 10 years. Santana now is 8th in home runs, which is amazing. Andre Thornton's ahead of him, and he's only 14. I think he's only like 13 or it's either 12, 13, or 14 behind.
Eighth in all-time home runs for the Indians.
Yep, and behind Thornton, and he's not far behind Thornton. He's going to catch him soon. So that just tells you, Santana really, at times by Indians fans, I felt, got mocked at times by Indians fans, didn't get treated with respect. And I'll tell you, we not only felt him in his presence in 16 and 17, we felt him leaving town in 18, and boy, we felt him even more in 19. These last 3 years, Jared, of Cleveland, with Santana being in Cleveland, he has just, that drumbeat is not just this year. He has really played well 3 out of the last 4 years when he's been in Cleveland. He really has.
Yeah.
The numbers prove it. He's going to historical levels to it, and I'm happy for him. And and again today, they're up 2-0 already. Santana with already an RBI single. He keeps producing, Jared. It doesn't matter if he's playing the Royals or the Red Sox or the Twins or the Yankees. He always produces.
Well, you know what? I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been around and doing all that. What I'm waiting on, honestly, at this point, to skip ahead to something else that I've had my eye on that I think is the one key that I think is still missing in that offense is I wish, and I know he's coming around, but he's still taking really bad hacks, is Franmil.
Yeah, he's had a really bad.
I don't worry about it. We got to leave him in. There's no taking him out of that lineup. We're going to ride this out. And I know there are folks, there are fans that will gripe about it. Why is he even in? What a terrible trade, this and that. He'll settle in. I'm just getting antsy. Like, when's it going to happen? Now, he's had a couple of ropes. He's hit the ball solid on a few occasions. The problem is he's really taking bad swings at bad pitches. That is where I'm getting frustrated.
It's obvious. He's struggling. The thing that's going to really put... Yeah, very much so.
Like Naquin was.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like with him hacking at stuff. Like, what are you even... relax, dude.
Like Greg Allen before he went back down AAA. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I would say about the outfield. And I think Reyes is a good example here. Like Puig is in right field. Mercado's our center fielder. I don't think that's changing anymore. I don't see that changing much. Maybe they get days off here and there, but those two guys are going to be in your lineup every day.
And I don't think it should either, right?
Nope. So you basically got left field. Left field. The way Greg Allen's playing, and Naquin's been consistent with the bat. Now, Naquin's had some issues in the field at times. Not all the time, but at times. He makes one good throw against the Twins, and the next day, the route he took in the Red Sox game was not good. So, that's Naquin in a nutshell, right? So Reyes, I think, is going to have a little bit more time, but I will say this. It's not because they're frustrated with Reyes. Allen and Naquin are pushing the envelope to play right now. Mm-hmm. And the one guy who I'm surprised, I haven't seen him taking a bat in weeks, is Luplow. Now, Luplow doesn't deserve to play every day or doesn't deserve to play 3 or 4 times a week with the lineup. But, Jared, I kind of do wonder at some point if they're going to try to get Luplow in and try to get him more at bats and try to get him settled, because right now it's just a tight. And by the way, this is what you want as the Indians fan. This lineup now is tight. You have not only has Puig brought his impact with the bat, but what he did on Friday night, and even though the Indians lost, he threw out Maben. And Maben's quick. Right. It was amazing how fast that ball came to home plate. And then with the bases loaded in an inning on no outs, 2 fly balls to right, and they weren't medium. They were more deeper. They weren't the track, but deep. Both times, the Yankee didn't try to score from third base. Puig is a weapon. That is a weapon.
I think that, I got to be honest with you, I wondered what we were getting, right? Mm-hmm. I did. And now we're talking about a guy who, there are some folks saying, well, the Indians. Now, let's throw this proposition out here. Let's talk about this. I'd like to keep Puig next year, maybe 2 years, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about a 2-year deal. What kind of money are we talking about? 15, 20? What are we talking about a year? Hopefully closer to 15, right?
I would say this for something like Puig. Because of who Puig is, and because now I'm seeing his potential in a lineup that's stacked, Puig's going to command some really good money. Well, but here's the thing, though, too, that people got to remember. Kipnis's money comes off the books.
Right.
you have to figure Danny Salazar. Danny Salazar is not rental cheap. He's $5 million a year, I believe. I know we read that stat back in the spring. I think it's $5 or $4 million a year. So that money goes off the books. And as we all know, the Bauer money's off the books. Will they supplant some of that money to really take care of a Puig? It'll be interesting to see. There's two other debates.
Well, here's the other gripe to go over that is, well, if that's the case, why didn't you keep Bradley?
Well, Brantley.
No, Brantley, geez, oh man, dude.
I know what you meant.
What is going on with my brain?
Well, that's what happens when you work out. You get tired. For those of you who don't know, Jared is reshaping his body, and he's doing a great job.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to go from soft edges to.
Don't worry. I got softer.
Oh man, I walked into a gym for the first time in a year and a half today, about an hour ago. So Michael Brantley. The argument would be, well, why are you going to pay Puig and you didn't pay Michael Brantley? And I think that there's two things that stand out to me. Puig's 4 years younger than Brantley, right?
Yes.
Handful of years younger. That means a lot. That means a lot mileage wise. Just does. And two is Puig it was the health issue with Brantley. That's the issue.
Yes.
Is that he just wasn't healthy.
People forget Brantley missed a lot of time in 15 and 16. And to be honest with you, parts of 17. Now, he was in 16. God, could you imagine if we had Brantley in that lineup in 16? I mean, that would have been a major difference.
I'd be wearing a pretend World Series ring right now.
Yeah, and we love Brantley. It's not his fault, but I understood why the Indians did what they did with Brantley. I thought that made sense. And you know what? I'm happy for him he's playing well in Houston. I'm not a bitter Indians fan about that one. So I thought Brantley did his job, and you can't help it if you're unhealthy.
Right.
You just can't. I thought that was I got to admit, I think that was the right decision not to re-sign him. I really do. But Puig is interesting.
Because at the same time, it would make sense to sign him at this point.
I think a 2-year deal for good money makes a lot of sense. I really do. Now, here are the other two things I think come into play with Puig. That's not so much the Puig factor, it's the Indians factor. Do you try to go with someone right now where you take a look and you're like, all right, Bieber is playing really well. Do you try to renegotiate his contract younger now to get him more affordable for longer years? I think you do. Mm-hmm. Because Bieber is going to be a high-priced commodity here pretty soon. The other key thing here is, too, with the Indians, is if you really look around and you see different pieces and parts, do you, if the Indians say, all right, if we get Puig, awesome, cool, great, that's it. You really can't do a whole lot more for the Indians. Because if you re-sign Puig, you basically got to use your other allocation money to take care of the plug holes. A couple relievers, maybe some little this, little that. So you're really all in on Puig.
I'd like a little bit longer innings out of the relievers. I think that's one area that I would like to tweak on in that clubhouse. Is give me a little more length in relief. And other than that, wow. Let me go ahead and say this, and maybe I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. But I can only go so long without saying this.
Ready?
I don't miss Bauer at all.
I was gonna say it for the end of the show. Well, let's go.
I mean, that's why we're talking about pitch. Where was this fall off? Everyone was paranoid. Oh, we're losing so much. Oh,
all right, let's go down that rabbit hole. We touched upon it on Facebook, and I'm going to hit upon it now. I did not like Bauer's exit. I did not think it was good how he ran around. We didn't talk about that during the game and did a press conference. I didn't think that was cool at all. I thought that showed up the Indians, and I thought that showed up Francona. I didn't think that was cool. I don't wish Trevor ill will either. But I kind of
because I don't even think he gets that was a bad look.
No. Again, I stated this the day after the Kansas City game, and I'll state it again. There was no way Trevor Bauer was coming back next year. And it was either trade him in the offseason or trade him in the in-season.
It was his words.
Yeah.
He made his bed. He made his bed.
That was the last straw. When he threw the ball into center field, that was it. That was throwing the ball to Cincinnati. He was throwing the ball down south, down 71.
Yeah.
And you know what? Trevor Bauer, you know what? He might do well in Cincinnati and whatever else. When you give up 9 runs and you only get 1 out in the 5th inning.
Which happened to him. Was this his first start?
3rd or 4th. He pitched really well against the Cubs the game before. But for people out there, I think
Yeah,
I'm
see, I
actually ready
haven't
to say
tracked
this.
any of it. Haven't paid any
I've been
attention
watching.
to it. Because
I've
I
been
don't know.
watching.
I don't like looking in the rearview mirror. I don't know.
Now I hear you. I've been fascinated by the whole Bauer story all year. I was very interested by the Cleveland reaction. He got a lot of Cleveland love when he was way out. I was not that lovey-dovey on the way out. I don't dislike Trevor. Trevor reminds me of Albert Bell. I don't dislike Albert Bell. Albert Bell had some good moments with the Tribe. And Bauer's kind of the same way with me. Like, I don't dislike Albert. I don't dislike Trevor. Do I miss him? Probably not.
They are who they are.
That's right.
And that's
right.
And I think that I was talking to somebody on Twitter when Albert Bell was brought up recently, just yesterday, and it was it had to do with when Albert who did he shove from the Brewers at second base?
Oh, Vina, wasn't it?
Yeah, just threw him on the ground when he went to tag him out, and it was. You look at it, you look back, and I just like, what a bully! Like, that wasn't necessary, was it?
No,
I don't
it wasn't.
remember.
I gotta be honest.
I don't remember
with you.
I remember probably laughing as a kid when I watched it, but I remember watching it now and just feeling like that dude had his demons, right? He had his demons.
Oh, he still does.
And I mentioned the chasing the kids on
Halloween. I mean, he had multiple incidents,
right? Or flipping out if somebody called him Joey.
There was a lot. There's a lot. He's got a lot of demons. To be honest with you, and
but at the same time, he had some of the greatest moments of all time. The flexing his arm in the dugout.
When they took his
bat.
He corked.
By the way, he corked. Right.
He did cork his bat.
He corked one. That's why they were. That's why they took that bat.
That's right. That's right.
So
the whole thing about Bell's this. Like, he had some memorable moments, and so did Trevor. Trevor, again, if everybody laughs, Trevor in Game 1 in 2017 was wonderful. He pitched one of the best playoff games you could ever see from an Indian. Really held the control, set the tone. He set the lineup and really did a nice job with all that. Now, all that to be said, here's the one thing about Trevor, though, that really towards the end we made remarks all year. I don't mind the character edge and all that stuff, but him going after the teammates publicly, I thought was very strange in that article. I still do, and that's something Albert didn't do. And when it comes to Albert in that moment at second base, Jared, I still kind of like it. So I thought it set the tone for the Indians.
It did,
and I thought it was an overreaction by. I know everybody that was an overreaction. Yeah, he hit you hard. There's no doubt. But come on, it's sports. Get up, dust yourself off, and if you don't like it so much, have your pitcher throw to one of the Indians and hit him in the ass, and let's get to the next one.
Yeah. And that's why, again, like I said, there's a dichotomy there of. Part of me loves to see, and we're going to get to this in the next podcast, that'll talk about, the Browns and their practices with the Colts. And, do you want them fighting? Do you want them tough? Well, you know what? We've been walked on for 20 years to this point. So yeah, right.
The Indians,
there's a back and forth when it comes to this stuff. You want the players to be edgy and tough and to stick up for, their guys and all that. And that's what Bell was doing. I don't know, though, that you can say the same thing all the time in that same sense with Bauer either. I mean, you just mentioned it with the way that he talked about some of the players on the team, threw them under the bus. That's not edgy in the right way, brother.
Anyways, we've gone down Bauer, but here's I'm actually going to bring this back to.
Yeah, let me end this with I don't miss him.
I don't miss him either.
No.
I don't wish him harm.
Yeah, right.
I will not root against him, but I don't miss him.
Yeah.
All right, so now going backwards, that was a big 3 out of 4 for the Indians last week.
Yeah,
they needed those 3 games.
Yeah.
It was huge that they got those 3 games.
Yeah.
And I think you're frozen, Jared, or am I? Oh, now you're back. So I'll pick it up here. 3, 2. Those are big 3 games that the Indians needed. They really needed to get the Twins and bring that series closer. I mentioned this throughout. I do think this is a tough stretch for the Tribe, and we saw it after that. Yes, they had a great win on Monday, but really after that, the Red Sox, I guess, were playing elimination games with themselves. So they were going out. Nathan Eovaldi's pitching in all these innings already, and it's only August, which, by the way, that's going to backfire. Sadly for the Tribe, it's horrible timing because they played them in those games.
It's okay.
It's
okay. It's okay, Andy, because and the math I think I broke this down for you the other day because somebody else had broken it down for me. And it was, you've got the White Sox and the Royals for 15 more. And if you take 11 or 12 out of those 15, which they should.
Okay, they should.
Right? So you take 11 to 12 out of those. If every other series, the rest of the year, the Indians only take one, they finish with 95 wins. That math breakdown tells me that, well, we have to see what happens. I mean, are the Twins going to win 100 games? Right. See, 90. Could you imagine 95 wins, 96 wins doesn't win you the division? Isn't that nuts? And it comes down to because there's more teams that are only winning 50, 60 games a year.
Well, that's a big thing this year in baseball. And I'll point to the Ranger series. The Indians have had a little bad luck with the schedule. When the Indians played the Rangers earlier, they were still competitive and still fighting. The Rangers started to check out in the second half of the Indian series. And the Twins right now are in Arlington. And guess what? If it was in a different part of the year, Jared, I think Texas takes a couple of those games. They have not. So far, the Twins are 2 for 2. I mean, they've really done a nice job winning those 2 games. I think the Indians got a little snake bit with the schedule, which it happens. They're going to have to overplay that. By the way, the schedule is a schedule. But, the one thing that this does for the Indians, no matter how this breaks out, I love the fact this is going to get them October tested. I don't think this means that it wins them the division. I think it means that they're October tested. The only thing that I'll mention again that's a non-Indians factor, it's just a sports factor, and knowing what I've seen over the years, Houston's going to be very tough to beat. Anyone else, yep. I'd say bring it on. Houston, folks, I love the Indians. Houston's going to be tough. That is going to be hard to win 4 games.
I think a series. I think they can win a series against the Yankees. I think they can win a series against
Rays,
against the Rays, against the Twins, against the A's. I think every team out there. I don't know who's built to beat Houston.
That's my point.
But at the same time, even if the Indians come in as a wild card, which is a wild card with 96, let's say they're a wild card with 96 wins. Let's say
could happen. I think it's going. By the way, I'll say it again. I think it's going to happen.
So
I think overtaking the Twins is going to be hard.
If that's the case, you're in as a wild card. I still think that they've got better odds and chances of going further this year than they did last year.
I agree with you there. And here's the other thing too. I would say about the whole Indians Twins thing. When it comes to everything else I've noticed now, the Twins really have the lineup, they really have the moxie, and they're feeling good about themselves. The one thing about the Twins, though, on the other hand, that the Indians have, if they're healthy, is the pitching. The Twins' pitching has really shown its warts here in August. Yep. They have a very thin staff, and they have a very thin bullpen. Now, the Indians, which we'll get to in a second here, have loaded talent coming back in. I guess we should go to it. So Kluber's pitching. We're doing this podcast on Saturday, Game 3 of the Yankee series. So Kluber comes back with another start on Sunday. Then after that is debate time. He either goes back for one more start or he comes up. So Kluber's pretty close to coming back. Carrasco's finally making some pitches off the mound. So that's a big deal. Jeffrey Rodriguez played in a simulated game in Arizona. Zimmer, I would hold my breath on Zimmer. I think he's coming back, but really he's only playing twice a week, 3 times a week right now. Not playing sparingly. I really wouldn't put too much stock into Zimmer, but I'd put stock into Heffrey. Because Heffrey would be a big reliever coming out of the bullpen. I care more about having Heffrey back than I do about Zimmer. And to be honest, even with the stuff with Carrasco, I can't count on that either. And I mean that with love. Like I don't mean it. There's a lot of Hollywood.
You just don't know. Yeah, you don't know where this is going to go. I don't know enough about his condition. I can't. No. It's all about spiritual Hollywood stuff, and I mean that in a positive way. Meaning, Carrasco might have energy. It might feel the testosterone pumping, and be. It happens in sports a lot. You're right. Yeah, he might be ready for the postseason.
It would not surprise me when Carrasco's back. Now, the Carrasco, where he is different from Kluber's ready and he has a month to naturally get into the season. Carrasco's on the clock. He can't have any more setbacks, really. Meaning, like, if Carrasco has something and it tweaks himself in September, Yeah, you're running out of weeks, you're running out of pitches and simulated games, and there's only so many minor league games left.
Yeah.
In Kluber's case, it's perfect.
We're
Not
getting
only
a
is he coming
fresh
back,
Kluber.
fresh Kluber with games in the regular season to play, which he needs. So it's really teed up well for Kluber. It's exciting to see him come back. The Indians have really been snake bitten when it comes to injuries in the pitching the last 3 or 4 years now.
Well, I also think that bringing Kluber back, you obviously move him back into the rotation. You can bump one of those, some of those starters into that rotation to give you a little more length as well. Especially help you out, in a wild card game where you're going to use everybody.
Yeah,
if needed, you're going to do whatever it takes. So,
the Indians right now, and I mentioned this to you in a conversation, they are definitely an anchor veteran short right now. Clevenger's pitching in big leagues for a while, but I don't consider him a veteran. Bieber's certainly not a veteran. And then you got these other guys around like Plesac. These guys aren't veterans. We all know that. Right. So what I would leave it up to is this. Like, I really do think Kluber not only brings, obviously, talent, but a veteran presence you need. The Indians are really, really short on that right now. Really short. And I think it shows in series I've been watching lately. I think in regular season you can always get by with it. Postseason, Jarid, a Kluber is going to go a long way. Even if he doesn't bring wins in the win column, he's going to go a long way into helping out settle the staff down. Similar to Puig in the 4-hole.
I don't know what it is, Andy. If you'd have said this to me, if you'd asked me this question a couple months ago, I would have said not a chance in hell. But if you ask me if the Indians have a chance to actually do something in this postseason, I genuinely believe that they can kind of go dumb and just run right through it somehow. I think that possibility's there. I know we talk about Houston, but there's something that this team hasn't been. It's not like we know exactly who this team is yet.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we haven't gotten. It's August, and we finally are settling into lineup and rotation, and like we're finally settling in to things that are working.
Yep.
We hung in there and made it. I mean, we had talked about it, Andy. Can they get to within 6 by the All-Star break? Boom. They did that. They did it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they now seem to have some things figured out. I mean, my expectations are going to be, they're higher now than they were. They are.
Well, yeah. The Indians don't make the playoffs now. It's definitely going to be very disappointing. And I bring that up because I think that is in play. The Indians are really fighting up against a lot of things right now, but they're doing well with it, by the way. They're excelling, which is exciting to see. But the Indians really have teams pushing on them. The Twins are pushing on them. The Rays are pushing on them, and the A's are pushing on them. They need that. They need that. If they get in, it's because they earned it. Well, they will this year. They will this year because those 4 teams aren't going away. The Indians, the Twins, the Rays, and the A's are staying there all year. I don't see that changing at all. The only thing about the Indians that I'm not trying to throw a wet towel, but I'll throw a little bit of cold water.
No, that's fine.
The only thing about the Indians that I just do see is I still feel like the Mercados of the world, the Reyeses of the world, who are going to be playing games in the playoffs. Bieber, who's been great. Clevenger has been great. All that stuff's fine and good and well. If being honest with you, I think in a big spot, though, they're going to be really tested.
The lights are too bright,
Maybe. I think even Clevenger is going to feel it. It's different when you don't have Bauer and Kluber ahead of you. Now, you might have Kluber.
We've seen it happen to guys. We saw it happen to J-Ram.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this team, I truthfully, if I was giving a reality pill, they feel like a year away. I felt that way all year, and I feel that way now. I just feel like they're a year away. Now, the one thing with the trades and everything they've done, Jared, they've given this team a real chance. And here's where I agree with you 1,000%. The Indians are going to be underneath the radar this year, which is nice. They're not going to be the heavy favorite. The Astros are going to win that, and the Yankees are right behind them. And by the way, they've earned it. They're going to have their win totals are going to earn that kind of respect. That actually is good for the Indians. Be in the back pages. Don't be discussed as much. That will help. Whenever the Indians are in the back pages of the playoffs, they do very well. So I will never say that is not historical with the Indians. That's not true. It is. And I do think they can put this all together in the way that J-Ram, we talked about Santana and how he's lifted the team all year, and he really has. There's only been like week here or there, but man, it's even consistent. But what J-Rim's doing in the second half of the year, especially in the last month, if he continues that kind of pace with Puig, with the way Santana's playing, you finally naturally now got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Lindor, Mercado, Santana, Puig.
And the pressure that takes off the guys in the back end of the lineup who are going to hack it, it makes a difference the whole way through, and we've seen it.
Changes everything. And in fact, the one guy who's really paid off lately is Greg Allen. Greg Allen's had a nice couple weeks string here. And that's why, again, you made a good point about Reyes. Reyes is going to get pushed, and not because he's pushed because I think he's playing that poorly. It's because other guys around him are playing that well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see Reyes getting sat down.
I maybe I need to backtrack a little bit on my words because I didn't think that they would sit him. I didn't think they would. I thought that they would grind through. As long as they can keep winning games, they'll grind through until he figures it out. But
you got to win games at some point. I mean, you're getting September now. It's late August. I mean, you're going to get in September here soon. I don't know how much longer you can ride. Hey, we hope this cleans itself up. I think they give it 2 more weeks, Jared. I really do think in September it's a mental switch of like we want to play Reyes, but if he's not hitting, we got to sit him.
That's a good way to look at it, I guess. 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks is a good time period for that at this point. You've got this heavy week, you've got this heavy finish in New York. 2 weeks. Yeah.
I think 2 weeks is about right. I think after that point you're going to start seeing that's when the rosters open up and you'll see all sorts of things.
We'll say early September we'll revisit this and see where we're at.
Yeah. Now, here's something I want to revisit today because I think Brad Hand's had a bit of a struggle and it's not really much of a hidden topic of discussion. I'm a big believer in this. I think relievers are fickle. They get hot, they get cold. They all go through it. The only one in my whole lifetime I've never seen it really is Rivera, who, by the way, today was honored in Yankee Park. He got his monument statue. So, Rivera's the only one. Rivera may have gone through cold streaks for sure, but nothing prolonged. Well, Brad Hand now is not really, if I'm being truthful, except for a save here and there, he's really had a rough 4 or 5 weeks. Has not looked as sharp, has gotten hit hard. I will say, in fairness, there's been some defensive lapses that have not helped Brad Hand. I think Brad Hand, and by the way, I think Brad Hand, out of all the relievers I've seen come through the Indians who have struggles, Brad Hand's handled it the best. He's been a pro. He's been out there celebrating the team. He takes the comments, and, that goes a long way. And Brad Hand, I think, will find it. But I got to be honest now, Jared. When Brad Hand came out there back in May, I'm like, got this. We're good.
Yeah.
Here we go. For the first time now, I'm going to start pacing in the 9th inning. I'm not getting off my chair. I'm going to be walking the rug.
Oh, so back to how we're used to doing it. Because that's where I'm at, too. And I didn't see it coming, to be honest. I don't know what's going on with him.
Well, it happens. It just happens to relievers all the time. Mm-hmm. That's why I would have never blamed the Indians if they would have traded Hand. Because I get it. This is what happens with relievers. It's the weirdest thing. People forget. Craig Kimball was unhittable 2 or 3 years ago. The Red Sox won the World Series with him, and he couldn't get anybody out. And now he's basically hanging on for dear life in Chicago. So it happens quick with relievers. We all remember Mesa. Deathly to, Yep. It happens fast. So Brad Hand's on one of those runs right now. I don't think it's bad timing at all that he's taken 3 or 4 days off in a row.
No, he needed this. He needed this break.
Yes. I would like to see Brad Hand get in a game, though, in New York. I want to see him mental tested again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see him get tested one more time to see where we're really at with this. I will say, though, unless you're really in the, hey, I just think it was just they're playing good teams, whatever, I think it's tough defending Brad Hand as a lock anymore. But what are you going
to do? I mean, he's
your reliever.
No, you're riding that horse all the way home. I mean,
you
that's
have no choice.
Sorry.
You have no choice. Nick Goody's been better lately. Even he got hit hard recently. Whitcomber's been up and down the second half. He's had good moments, bad moments. Oliver Perez is great out of the bullpen, not in the 9th inning. He's just this. Clippard's not a reliever anymore either. Those guys are more your 7th and 8th inning guys. In fact, even Simber recently he's been back and forth a little bit. Yep. The only thing I would say about all these relievers for the Indians, none of that is close to what Brad Hand can do in the 9th. Brad Hand's your guy. You're going to win or lose with him, sadly. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to say.
It's like the Browns with their kicker situation.
Oh, God. Oh.
Hey, it's better right now. We'll talk about that again on the next podcast. Don't worry. We'll talk about it.
No.
We're not talking about it right now. It'll be all right.
I hit a soft spot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about Brad Hand. I hope he figures it out. God, that kicker thing really put something in my fucking head now. Here's what I would lead on Brad Hand. I just think Brad is your guy. I guess I should hammer that home. I don't see the other options here. The only guy who was a reliever last year for the Nationals is possibly Jeffrey Rodriguez. But Jeffrey hasn't pitched forever. So I don't even know how you put him in the ninth inning. So I just don't see it. I've seen all the other relievers come through, Jared. They're very good setup guys. None of them are closer stuff. From what I've seen. Nothing.
No, I think that I had mentioned Wood at one point, and then I retract that.
Yeah.
Well, quickly.
Yeah, he's good in the 6th, 7th inning, but other than that, no. So that's kind of where we're at. I do think Brad Hand, though, I put it in rundown for a reason, needs to be watched. I think it's something everybody should keep their eye on. Before we get to like what's ahead, we kind of mentioned everything else here, the Zimmer thing, whatever. The 19-5 win was great on Thursday, and the Indians have done that in recent years in the stadium.
Well, they now they hold the top 2 scoring winning games over the Yankees in new Yankee Stadium, right?
Correct. And by the way, they're not far behind the old Yankee Stadium either, because they whipped them one year in 2000. I think it was 2004 they whipped them, and I know it's 2004. And
yes, it was 22 to. Was that 22-0 that one?
Yeah, I got the newspaper hanging up from the Daily News. Stinkies was the title, the headline. And by the way, that was the year the famous collapse where the Yankees were up 3-0 and they lost to the Red Sox. So that was an omen for things to come for that team. But, going back, that was a great win. I was glad to see that. I didn't get to watch much of it as I was working on a documentary late in the night. But I kept my eye on it and stuff. And, those kind of wins also go a long way. But nothing competes with Sunday and Monday. And it's not just because I was watching those games. Those games, Jared, had a lot of juice to it, especially the Sunday game. It felt like it. The Twins really did a nice job of playing up to what the Indians were doing. The Indians obviously,
you knew that the Twins were in it no matter what. You knew that that's not enough runs. That's not enough runs. Please hold them off. Hold them off. Hold them off. And that's how I felt throughout that series. Yeah,
I can declaratively say this: the Indians and Twins are very even. There's not a lot of room between either team. They're very close. They've actually, what's strikingly obvious, I think the Twins lineup's a little bit more striking, and the Indians have better pitching. That's it. That's the difference, and it evens everything out. But it's very close. Outside of that, I don't see a lot of difference between these two. So I'll ask, as we do at every end of the Indians discussion, they're a game and a half out on the 17th. Did they beat the Twinkies? Okay.
I think they win the division.
I know. I hope you're right. A lot of people do. Not just not hearing locally in Cleveland, but nationally too. I still think the Twinkies win it out. I just think the Indians' schedule is too competitively harder than the Twins. I know there's been numbers and stuff. I don't care about the numbers. I look at the schedule and teams they're playing. The Indians' schedule is far tougher than the Minnesota Twins. I do think the Indians, though, will host a wild card game no matter what. I don't think they're going to lose that wild card lead at all. I think the Indians are going to make the playoffs, though. I'm 80%, 85% there making the playoffs no matter what.
I don't think there's a chance that they miss the playoffs. I just don't.
Yeah, unless they get really cold. But this team in Francona, they never get cold this time of year, so I think you're right. I think they make the playoffs. I'm 80, 85%. It would take a catastrophic injury or something like that.
And I genuinely, I don't care if they get in as a wild card at this point.
I don't
because
either.
Because of the way the season's gone, just get in. Just get in. And I really feel like this is one of those teams that's built with that just get in mentality.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen Indians teams that did not have as much talent get in. And, the Indians I think the Indians, again, that Puig Bauer trade changed everything. Really, really changed everything. A couple other
Looking
notes.
back on it, man, what a great move, huh? What a great move.
Again, Trevor Bauer threw that ball. He threw the ball south of Cincinnati, and that changed everything.
The entire mood of the team is just different.
Yep, that and Puig's presence. It's twofold. Bauer exiting and Puig coming in. Yeah. It really was a twofold thing. That's rare in trades, but you really felt it in this case here.
That bat-licking weirdo. I don't care.
So the Indians are in the middle of their New York tour.
Bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Francona had a funny quote. I've never been in New York for a week, pretty much guaranteed that a lot of guys will come home with no money, end quote. I think that's a great quote by Francona. Well said. So they played 3 in Queens, as you alluded to. The Mets have played much better in the second half of the year. They're still a 500 club, but you know the Mets have a very strong home record, so that should be remembered too. So going to Queens is not exactly a given. So we'll have to see what happens there. And then finally, the schedule takes a breath for 2 series: at home with KC, in Detroit, and then boy, a huge series in Tampa for 3. So the Indians finally get some days off. They haven't had a day off in a while. They get 2 here in the next 2 weeks. So, Jared, they basically go to Queens. That's tricky. It's a sandwich.
Yeah.
In the middle, you got KC, Detroit. You better eat 5 out of 6. Better win 5 out of 6 in those games. And then right back to Tampa. The crowd probably won't be there, but that is a huge series in Tampa. Huge series.
Yeah. I'm not sweating it. I think I'm looking at this as a 1 game at a time thing right now.
You have to.
It's crazy. I'm glued to this. I'm glued to every game, and I'm glued to what the Twins are doing. And the end of this season is gonna play out really slowly.
Yep.
Really slow. It's gonna drag because you're gonna have to watch every single move that happens. Every single win and loss is gonna have some sort of impact.
A lot of outs coming up. You're right. I agree with you. My last comment, I think Lindor doesn't get talked about enough, and I want to bring him up quickly. His average has been up. He feels presence. It's interesting on this team. He is so the opposite of other Cleveland stars we've had in the past. You know Lindor's there, and you know him by name. He's definitely the most popular Indian. But it's weird, Jared. He blends in really well within the scenery of his team.
Yep.
More than any other Impact All-Stars, celebrity athlete in Cleveland.
Enjoy him, Andy. Enjoy him.
Dude, why are you doing Dolan today? I don't want to talk about that article.
No, we're good.
Kickers and Dolan.
Because I know how to push buttons. That's why.
Oh my God! Is Danny Salazar coming back? Okay. So look, nothing against Danny, but I think we've checked that. I think I think we're done seeing updates about Danny Salazar this year. The thing is, nice double play. The Indians almost got double play to get out of the inning.
No, you're ahead of me because I'm streaming it. Thanks for the update.
No worries. I'm here to ruin play-by-play experiences for Jared Watson anytime. But anyways, I love Jared. I feel so bad. I do.
Payback for bringing up the kicker stuff.
Couple quick points, and I'm wrapped.
Yep, same.
I would really, really keep your eye, if you love baseball, keep your eye on the AL East. The Phillies just hired Manuel. It's made a big boost. The Nationals weirdly have come on. By the way, those are 2 of the 3 teams Indians play in late September.
I told you I'll be at that last series against the Nats. Yep.
That's I think that series is going to be, no matter what's going on, I would be surprised if not 1 or 2 of those games have a lot of weight with it. Maybe all 3, because I think the Nats are going to be pushing too. Yeah,
so, I will be taking the train down to DC and going to those games. At least one of them, I'm going to try to go to 2 at least.
Yeah, big series. Phillies at home too will be a big series. The Phillies have really come on lately. They've been hot. Yep. So the Indians are playing all these AL East teams as they're playing well. It's just been one of those years for the Indians. Seems like they catch teams on the wrong end every time this year, which I agree, Jared, that builds gumption and builds your shield going into the playoffs. That'll make you stronger.
If this team is going to do it, they have to do it this way, and that's it. And I don't think I'd want them to do it any other way.
Yes,
I don't. I don't like them walking into the playoffs after winning a division by 20 games or whatever. Like I don't care because where's the. This is a team that needs to. You come in with a big lead in your division. You're not always amped up for what's next for the fall.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
The Indians can ride this wave, and they can ride it all the way in if they want. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. But I'll tell you, I think to where you're getting at, and I'm feeling it too now. The Indians, boy oh boy, when they get in, I think they will. They have earned it, and it's going to make them tested. They're going to be in some spots that I don't think other teams have seen or felt. Yeah. I think the Indians have been there this year. I really do. I think the Indians have really, really felt it more than any other team I can think of this year. And the Indians, too, have gone through injuries. They've just gone through everything. I don't know what to say. They've gone through so much this year as a team.
Injuries, worrying about. Yeah, I mean, it's been awful, and it's been a theme for the past couple of years. But really took off this year.
Yeah, boy,
it really
well
did.
said. It really took off this year. So watch the AL East because those are teams that it's not only a good race; it's teams that the Indians are going to be playing. And the other thing to really keep your eye on, because I think it's going to play a big part of this. The Dodgers are way off west, and the Dodgers and Astros are going to be heavy favorites going into this playoff run. Even with the Yankees, and the Yankees are probably going to win over 100 games. Even with that, I think those two teams are by far, Jared, are going to be talked about as the heavy favorites to win it all. It'll be interesting, too, with the Dodgers, because this will be the third year in a row they're in the World Series. You got to figure they're going to win one of them. Don't you? I mean, gosh, this will be 3 years in a row they lose in the World Series. A lot of pressure. By the way, I've been hearing rumors Joe Madden might be getting fired.
Goodness
you win the World
gracious.
Series in Chicago? Boy, it's like
Goodness.
Terry Francona all over again. Are they really going to get rid of a guy who just won a World Series and broke
They
that
might.
long? It's interesting. All those things to watch. I think baseball this year has a lot more juice than I've seen in past years. And maybe that's because the Indians are in it. I don't know. But this year, I've seen a lot more juice, a lot more pep in the baseball stuff than I have in past years.
Well, Andy, let's go ahead and wrap this, I guess, then. Follow us on Twitter, @CLE and Beyond, on Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. Websites, andyandjared.com, clevelandandbeyond.net. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Wherever podcasts are found, we are there. And you can shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. That's JARID. Also, don't forget, when you're listening to the podcast, do us a favor, rate it. Give us that, well, hopefully a 5-star. But if it's a 3-star, I'll take a 3-star. 2-star, that's hurting me a little bit. But give us a rating. Give us some feedback, because we want to know what you think. I guess I'll leave it at that, Andy. Anything left?
Feedback's great. Don't 2-star us, though. Come on. We should be rated. Come on. We're not that bad. I mean, I've heard some crap over this stuff. Come on, we're not that bad.
At least we don't sound like we're recording in our parents' closet. So
Yes.
we got that going for us.
Exactly. I guess the last thought is these games are going to, I agree with Jared, I think these are going to be grinding, gut-wrenching, fun games.
I've spent
there's
most of
gonna
this
be
game, I've been staring at the screen and not even looking at you during this whole podcast. So there you go.
Hard not to. And I definitely have a face for podcasts, so that helps. But yeah, I definitely think, to what you alluded to, I think the Indians stretch here, it's going to be grinding. Even those Royals games and Tigers games, I think there'll be moments of nerves. And I guess the other note is enjoy the games where the Indians do have a lead and you can restfully, watch. 19-5 was nice on Thursday. That was nice.
Well, I know I'm digging in and I'm going to watch every one, and I'm ready for it. So go Tribe. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond. Talk again soon. Take care.